Have you decided on which drink you'd like to have, sir? Do you have any recommendation on a cocktail? Oh, why yes. May I recommend this very rare, very exclusive vodka soda. The vodka is made by the rarest Viking. The soda is a strawberry-esque from the waterfalls of Pandora, topped up with some ice cubes made by Queen Elsa herself from Iredale. Very rare and very exclusive. It says $8,000 for that drink. It'll be perfect for your Instagram page, sir. You know what? I think I'll just stick to a basic vodka soda with some local ice cubes. Okay, basic vodka soda it is. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I want to share with you guys some of my favorite common and basic houseplants of the month. And this is going to be a new monthly series I want to start. And that's because the other night, I caught myself scrolling through Instagram and starting to get a bit of plant envy and plant jealousy of other people out there who has a lot of rare, exotic, and beautiful plants. I start to kind of compare myself to them. And I know that feeling. And that goes with anything in life, not just with plants. I used to always try and keep up with the Jones. If a new colleague of mine upgraded their car, I would do the same thing. If a friend of mine got a new pair of shoes, I would do the same thing. And I know eventually that wasn't healthy, both from my psyche perspective as well as financially. It just didn't make sense, and I definitely stepped away from that, especially more recently. But I noticed that a similar thing is starting to happen in the plant community, and I kind of want to avoid putting myself in that situation. So I want to take a step back, look around my place, and look at all my beautiful plants and really appreciate them. And for the most part, most of my plants are quite common. I would say 95% of my plants are mostly common and basic plants that you can find easily anywhere. And I always want to try and contribute to the community in a positive way. Always promoting these rare and exotic plants may not necessarily be the best from a plant accessibility perspective. There's already a lot of conversation taking place that the supply is low and the demand is high, and therefore these price hike and price gouging with some sellers. And I just don't think it's fair. So that's just my thoughts and my opinion on it. Again, there's nothing wrong with you wanting those rare plants if you can find them, if they're accessible, if they're affordable for you, by all means go for it. Trust me, if the opportunity presented itself and it was affordable, I would do it as well. So always do you. But I think it's also as important to just take a step back and appreciate the plants that you do have. So without further ado, I want to share with you guys my top favorite common and basic houseplants this month. We'll start with my Hoya Carnosa Crimson Princess. So a lot of Hoya varieties out there, and the Hoya Carnosa Crimson Princess is probably one that you will first come across because this is quite common and quite readily available in your big box stores or local plant shops. And it is a beautiful Hoya. I do find that this is one of those plants that are really easy to care for. It requires a lot of medium to bright light. Surprisingly, this is actually thriving more further back here on this shelf right here. It's shooting up these new growth. And what I like about the variegation on this, it has that cream whitish color with the green, different shades of green, and also sometimes touches of pink. So it is one of those tricolor ones, and surprisingly really easy to propagate. I just took a piece of stem, stick it in water, and within a few weeks there was a lot of roots. You guys can see right here. And yeah, beautiful Hoya. If you guys have never owned a Hoya, I recommend always getting one and start off with the Crimson Princess. Very, very easy to care for. Have this guy mostly in cacti soil with a bit of a regular potting mix and some perlite. I also only water this guy when the soil is dry or when the leaves are starting to get a little bit soft. And I do have him in this 4-inch container probably for the past 3 years now. So they do like to be a little bit root bound, a little bit stressed out, so that way you can allow it to grow and maybe bloom one day. But really, really cool looking plant, and definitely one of my favorite Hoyas. So the next basic and common house plant I want to share with you guys is the Peperomia Frost. Now, nobody talks about peperomias anymore, and honestly, there are so many varieties of peperomias. This being the Frost, one of my favorites, and that's because I love the shape of the leaves, the deep grooves on its veins, and just that pattern. And it has that silvery tone to it. So if you are looking for a silver plant and you can't get your hands on a philodendron silver sword, then a Peperomia Frost I think is another alternative. It just has that beautiful frosted silvery look to it, and just that shade of green and the color of it. And this guy is blooming. Peperomias, similar to Hoyas, I find that they like to be root bound. Whenever I repot my Peperomia too early, they do not last. They really go in shock and they struggle. That's just personally my experience, and I often do water this guy when the soil is almost going to be completely dry, or whenever the leaves start to show a bit of droopiness. You know, plants do like to tell you when they need to be watered, and it's blooming right now because obviously we're still in the growing season. It's healthy right now, getting a lot of medium to bright light, and yeah, really easy to care for. So the next plant I want to share with you guys is the pothos, specifically the Pearling Jade, my very first pothos that I got. And when I first got this, I thought it was a marble queen, and then someone corrected me that it was an enjoy, but I think we've established that it is a pearl and jade, and that's because of the speckled and splash variegation on its leaves, a little bit more pronounced than that of an enjoy. And when it comes to pothos, they are really easy to care for, prefer medium to bright light. You can have these guys trailing. You guys can see right here, I have it on top of this bookshelf, or you can have these guys climbing up to help promote more of that bigger and larger leaves, which I think I want to do with a few of these cuttings. I am going to propagate some more of these guys, but you guys can see here that I have this cutting that I propagated a couple months ago. The roots are super long, and what I wanted to do with this cutting is just plant it back at the top. So I'm pretty much going to trim a bit of the roots. It's okay to cut the roots and find an area here at the top where there are no cuttings growing from, and just make a little hole there and then plant the cutting back at the top. And yeah, so you guys can see here it's a lot more fuller crown. Originally this was just two, vines. The crown was pretty bare, and I'm starting to kind of encourage it to grow a bit more. So I'm really happy how this turned out. If you are looking for a much more detailed video on how to care and propagate these guys, I'll link a video right here. Now, you'll find that sometimes you'll drop leaves in the middle of a vine, usually at the top, and that's just caused by overwatering and inconsistent watering schedule and lighting. So be mindful that if that is happening, to hold back on your watering and make sure it's just getting a lot of bright light. Now, you can technically cut this off and start a new vine because it is just a shoot out growth, and you guys can start cutting and propagating this, but you'll find that sometimes it'll just start shooting out new growths that you guys can see right here. I can see some new growth points on where this vine is. It has bare leaves, so that's pretty cool. Really excited about this one, and yeah, it is my first pothos, so there's definitely a bit of a sentimental value when it comes to this guy. And the next favorite basic and common houseplant I have is the Ficus Elastica Burgundy. So you guys know I love my Ficus Elastica, and the burgundy is such a classic look. You can't go wrong with it, and these plants you can easily find in your big box stores or local plant shops, whether you can find them in a big form or small form. And what I love about the burgundy is this classic foliage with its underleaf that's a little bit batted. You guys can see kind of the midrib and the veins, and then the top of the leaf is this nice shine, dark green color to it, and then you got that midrib burgundy that you see there. But very beautiful, really easy to care for. They love a lot of bright indirect light, and the soil I typically have my Ficus Elasticas in is mostly cacti soil, regular potting mix, like 50-50, and then just throw a bit of perlite. Water them when the soil is dry. Easy to propagate. I've also done a lot of propagation when it comes to my Ficus Elastica, specifically the burgundy too, because I just think they're beautiful and really easy to care for and easy to grow. If your leaves are dropping, you're probably overwatering and they're not getting enough light. One thing with Ficus Elasticas I find that a lot of people struggle with is they need to find the right spot and let them settle down. Don't also plant them in a big container if the roots are small. They prefer to be a bit more root bound and a bit more, snugged in their container. So just be mindful of kind of where you place them. A lot of bright light. Don't overwater, because the leaves will drop. But yeah, so the next plant I want to share with you guys is actually one of my favorite succulents I have right now. It is actually my oldest succulent. Yeah, it is my oldest succulent. It is the Echeveria. So this is my oldest succulent. I've had this guy since summer of 2017, and surprisingly it's still with me. So the one thing that's cool about succulents like Echeverias is really easy to propagate. You can take one of these leaf petals, twist it off, place it on top of the soil, and yeah, keep that soil moist, bright light, and eventually it's going to spread out some new roots and a new Echeveria. So what I like about it is just that flower shape look to it, and whenever your Echeveria or succulent continues to kind of stretch out like this, it's reaching out for the light. So I found that mine did this quite a bit, and this is actually the top half of my Echeveria that I ended up cutting off, and that's because it was part of this main stem. So this is the main stem, the main mother plant. This guy was attached to it. It eventually kind of just grew way too long. The leaves at the bottom started to drop, so I ended up just cutting it and then planting this guy directly into soil, and now it's taking off, doing something similar to what it did with this one. But one thing that's cool about this one is this stem that I kept planted took care of it the way I normally would take care of it is now starting to produce and shoot out all these baby achuvaras on it, making it look so cool with its like aerial roots exposed as well. So man, I'm so excited for this because my goal with this one is to get all these achuvaras to grow really big and attach to this like stem, making it look really, really cool. And I'm excited to see where this goes. So I mean, a simple succulent, a basic succulent like this can look so cool and so amazing. And sometimes we take things like this for granted. So I'm really appreciative and so excited for this achuvara. But you know, succulents easy to care for, a lot of bright light, and water when the soil is dry. Use cacti soil. Also make sure that they are snugged as well. Again, if they are stretching and looking a bit leggy, that's just because they're looking for a bit more light. So there you guys have it. Those are 5 of my favorite basic and common houseplants of the month. As I mentioned, these should be easily found at your local big box stores or local plant shops. What are some of your favorite basic and common houseplants? You know, don't forget to take a step back, look around your place, appreciate these plants, look at it through that lens, and you'll probably find something unique and beautiful about them that you haven't seen before. Other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.